Chapter 2. Ray. "I need more time," the man begged. I'd been doing this for almost 1,000 years, and it was always the same. A stupid person sold their soul to a higher demon in exchange for something. When their time was up, the person cried for more time. Typical fucking human behavior. Bored, I glanced at the time on my cell phone. The date and time in your contract are coming up in 2 minutes. Hands pressed together, the man knelt on the floor. Please, I can't leave yet. My family depends on me." Oh, I knew that well. After working part-time at the local daycare, the man's wife was home waiting for their twins to get home from school. He was at his shitty little office, working extra hours to make ends meet. If only he had been smarter about making a demonic contract. 1 minute, I warned him. No. Tears welled in his eyes. 10 years ago, the man's wife, who couldn't have kids, found out she had cancer. By luck, or bad luck, the man stumbled onto me. Doing my job, I offered him a contract. His wife would be cured of cancer and able to have kids. But after 10 years, his soul would belong to my boss in the underworld. The time had come. The man's wife had been cured, and they had children, but their financial status had worsened. In a few seconds, the man would be gone, and his family would be left to rot. Like I said, the man should have been smarter. A terrible thing to say, but business was fucking business. I sighed. Time is up. His small office darkened, and shadows appeared in the corners. Eyes wide, the man trembled from head to toe as the shadows took form. Bodies of humans, with long limbs and sharp claws. Get him, I told the shadows. The man screamed. I walked out of his office, closing the door behind me. Even though the shadows were ripping his soul to pieces right now, and he was screaming his lungs out, nobody could hear him. In a few minutes, the people I walked past as I left the building wouldn't even remember seeing me. In a while, they would find his lifeless body on the floor. On the street, I flicked the contract, and it disappeared. 1 down, 3 zillions more to go. In my 1,000 years working for the higher demon Asmodeus, I had done many odd jobs, but the one he enjoyed the most was the writing of contracts and the collecting of souls. I went around finding desperate people and getting them to sign away their souls. The time left they had depended on what they asked for. The bigger the wish, the less time they got. Unlike me. Almost 1,000 years ago, I had sold my soul to Asmodeus, a prince of the underworld. I had been young, only 22 years old, and stupid and immature. All I wanted was to save my mother and sister from the plague consuming our village. I hadn't realized until it was too late that Asmodeus had tricked me. Instead of giving me a time frame like he did everyone, my contract was for eternity. I had to work for the higher demon and do his bidding until the end of time. For my schedule, I secured 3 more contracts before heading to the Dark Creek pub, a local bar in Liberty Creek. I paused before the door and fixed my black suit. There was sure to be nagging inside, and the fewer reasons I gave him to find something wrong, the better. After a long breath, I went into the bar. Asmodeus sat at a booth in the corner, drinking his whiskey on the rocks. I didn't fear much, but every time I saw him, it struck me how powerful Asmodeus was, how intimidating. He could destroy half of the country with a snap of his fingers. He could infuse excruciating pain in my body with just a look. A look similar to the one he was giving me right now. His blue eyes narrowed, his thick brows slightly curled down, his jaw set. The only thing that was always the same was his long blonde hair, unmoving and shiny. I had heard female demons longed for hair like his, while I had heard from male demons that they wished they looked as regal and young as him. Asmodeus's human form appeared to be in his late 20s, but his true age was unknown. But from the information I gathered over the years, I knew he was at least 5,000 years old. I took a seat across the table and placed the stack of contracts in front of him. Asmodeus lowered his gaze to the folders and counted them. Well done. He flicked his hand once, the contracts vanished, and a glass of whiskey appeared in front of me. "Thanks," I muttered, reaching for the drink. I was more of an ice-cold beer kind of guy, but I wouldn't argue with him about such small matters. I should be able to collect 3 more contracts tonight. The High Demon waved his hand. "I have another task for you. Let's call it a special mission." I frowned. Usually I hated the special missions he sent me on. "What is it?" "A new semester is about to start at the Blackthorn Hunters Academy. You'll go back there, pretend to be a student, and Randall's little puppy." He leaned forward, his elbows on the table. "And you're going to kill him." "But," I pressed my lips tight, measuring my words. Despite what I said and what argument I brought up, I saw no way out of this. "That's impossible." Randall was the first demon hunter and the headmaster of the Blackthorn Hunters Academy. He was immortal, incredibly powerful, and practically impossible to kill. "Haven't you tried before? You're much stronger than I am." Asmodeus's face hardened. "I could have killed him, but other circumstances arose, and I had to give up." He brought his glass to his lips and drank the contents in one long swallow. "This time, we need to kill him." "May I ask why?" I dared to ask, though I braced myself. Surprisingly, he didn't hesitate before answering. "I want to take over the academy. We'll kill the demon hunters before they finish their training, so that our demons can come out of the underworld. They will be unhindered and can take over the world." A sly grin appeared on his lips. "We'll be the most powerful demons ever." I shook my head. "I can see the appeal. Randall trusts you," Asmodeus said, his voice eager, excited, as if this was already a done deal. "You can approach him without any suspicion and kill the bastard." "It's not that easy. Had I mentioned the hunter was immortal and fucking powerful?" "I'm willing to offer you payment for this job," Asmodeus said. I scoffed. He had offered me incentives before. What would it be this time? Money, more power, women? "Such as?" "Your freedom." My body went rigid. My breath caught. "What?" "Kill Randall, and I'll destroy your contract and give you your soul back." My soul. My freedom. I would once more be the owner of my fucking life. This was way too tempting. "What's the catch?" I asked, sure he was hiding a card up his sleeve. "No catch. Kill Randall before the end of the semester, and I'll give you your soul back. Simple as that." Asmodeus extended his hand to me. "Do we have a deal, my son?" I hesitated, but I didn't care about Randall. If killing him gave me back my wretched life, I would do it. I slipped my hand into Asmodeus's. "Yes, father." When I first met Asmodeus, I had no idea who he was. But he knew who I was. He knew he was my father. He told me I was a half-demon and that he wanted to take me to the underworld with him, but I refused. Then, my mother and sister got sick and were dying. He came back saying he would save them if I sold my soul to him. I didn't think twice. Because he was a higher demon, a prince of the underworld, he had given me a special place beside him. At first I had rebelled, but after about 300 years, I didn't care anymore. It all became automatic. Do whatever he told me, endure the underworld, command legions of demons. It was like breathing now. When I left the bar, the sun was almost set and nighttime was near. As I walked to my car, parked in the main square, one of the many shadows hiding in town approached me. It told me where to find a lesser demon who owed Asmodeus a favor and who had been hiding from us for a couple of months. If I went after him right now and made him pay before I headed back to the academy, Asmodeus would be satisfied. So, I followed the shadow's lead. I took my car out of town, to the parking lot of a hiking trail. I left my car there, and walked down the trail the shadow mentioned, my demon eyes adjusting to the darkening skies. Then, I steered away from it, going toward the base of the mountain. The demon was supposed to have a hideout around here, a cave where he lured clueless humans hiking the trails and finished them. After looking for a few minutes, I found the cave, but besides some furniture, clothes, jewelry, books, and liquor bottles, there was nothing there. The demon wasn't here. I stepped out of the cave and extended my senses. Asmodeus had made me powerful, but I was still only half demon, and my senses didn't work the same way his did. I couldn't sense the damn demon, but I felt another disturbance in the air, somewhere to my right. I frowned in that direction. One thing Asmodeus had worked to erase was my curiosity. Unfortunately, that hadn't worked out well, though I was able to suppress it for the most part. Why should I bother suppressing it? The semester at the academy started tomorrow, and I would be back among humans. I could afford wasting a little bit more time. Following my curiosity, I went to the right, to the south. I only had to walk a few minutes before I stood in front of a ramshackle old house. I had heard of this house. It was said to be haunted, though I had never bothered to check it out. I could feel a faint hint of disturbance coming from it. Perhaps it was fucking haunted. Haunted houses didn't concern me, so I walked away. I had taken 3 steps when a scream pierced the quiet of the mountain. Without thinking, I ran toward the house.